Welcome to part 2 of the 2-part series Woven into Being with Teal Fitzpatrick, a Pittsburgh-based artist who shares her story of the wool and tarot and her journey of transformation. If you missed the first one, go back and check out part 1. We are so thankful for your continued support of the Two Mystic Mamas podcast.
Right. I'm curious to know if you, prior to you deciding to shut down your clinical practice, if you had big signs from the universe that things were changing.
Yes, and yes. I'm like, in hindsight, yes.
Well, because you said, I wonder if it was similar. And I had a career in IT.
Yeah.
Right. And I kept getting big signs that shit was not on that path. And I was like, but I have a salary and benefits and it's fine. And then the universe would send me another sign and I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
So for me, I was getting signs for years before I actually leaned into.
Yeah. Can you tell me one of the big ones?
Sure. So I was working for this one particular company. And I was working for a fucking dickhead of a boss. Just a man in his own right was bless. But I was able to talk to him and be real with him. And I didn't put up with his bullshit and ways he would talk to people and demean people and, you know, put himself above because he had the title and blah, blah, blah. And he was smart. Don't get me wrong. He was in the position for a reason. And then he fired my ass. But before he fired me, which was another whole, like, I was like, I'm not a fireable person. Like, I'm a fucking valuable asset.
I've done all the right things.
Anyways, before that, I was on my way to work the one morning and started to rain and I witnessed a head-on crash, right? And I was the car right behind the car that got hit. And I was like, and in those moments, it's those, what is it? Flight, or fawn?
Those flight or fawn or freeze.
Like, freeze. And I'm a go into it, like, you know. So I jumped out of my car. I went and got the woman who got hit. And she did not speak really clear English. And of course, she was in shock because she had hit the steering wheel. She was in pretty good shape. Like, she wasn't like she could walk. And I got her into the back of my car. And it was one of those, you know, and she was like, oh my God, are you a doctor? Because I immediately was like, what hurts? Like, I was very calm. I was just like very collected. And I was like, no, I'm not a doctor. I'm a mom. Like, and but I remember saying that, and that stuck with me because I was like, this is one of my sole purposes on this planet is to be a mom. And I was working so much at that job. I was leaving before the kids got on the bus. I was getting home at 6 o'clock, maybe closer to 7. And my kids, we only had 2 at the time, but they were small. And I was always one of those, but I'm here, I'm providing, I'm doing all of these things. And so that was a big one in retrospect. And I didn't know it at the time, but in retrospect, that was saying, A, your job's going to change. So you better start changing it now. And your priorities are out of whack. You're not thinking about this clearly.
And hearing yourself say when asked what you are.
Yeah. Well, right.
No, this is what I am.
Yeah.
And that isn't.
And it didn't think about it. It was totally just, it just came.
Right. Because your time wasn't aligning with what your values were.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then I got fired, which was another big sign from the universe. And I got fired because I stood up for myself and I didn't put up with his shit. And I wasn't disrespectful, but I wasn't like unprofessional either. I was just like, you can't talk to people like this.
Yeah.
You can't send messages. Like, it's not okay. And he was like, thanks for everything you've done. And he fired me over the phone, which I was like, what a fucking pussy. But that was another thing for me that I really had to take, because I knew when I got fired, I knew it was coming. Like, I knew I was pushing in the wrong direction. So it was like kind of like poking the bear, you know? So that was another one. Then I was working for another company that I thought was like the end all be all. Like, I was like, this is it. This is the one. But I ended up working for a narcissist as a woman, which is not super common.
No,
but narcissists,
feel it right away.
Yeah, narcissists I came to realize that because I'm an empath, an intuitive empath, I I'm the perfect prey for
Mhm.
narcissists,
Oh yeah.
which I didn't know.
You got
Right?
never-ending
Because
supply.
the love bombing, ooh, that worked for me every
Feels
time.
so good.
I was just like, yes, please. And then I would take all the abuse.
I'll never ask for a compliment, but if you're going to tell me how great I am before you
Yes.
ruin my soul,
Yes, that's
keep
right.
it
That's
coming.
right.
It's like a real fucked up compliment sandwich.
And there were some things that happened while I was working at that company that I was like, oh, okay. Like a massive tree fell in our yard. And these were all like huge symbols, but I wasn't fucking listening to the universe. I was
Mhm.
not listening to my purpose. I wasn't listening to what I was supposed to be. And so the messages kept getting louder
Yeah.
and louder and louder until, I went and had a Reiki session, and then all was revealed and I had a huge awakening.
Yeah.
And then my life has never been the same. So yeah, my events were like, and I witnessed another head-on crash, and I was like, but this time when I witnessed it, it took me back to the other one, and I was like, oh fuck, there's a pattern here.
Universe was like, okay, we thought this was a big fucking sign,
yeah.
but like, let's do this again.
Yeah, and I was like, so that time I
Are
didn't
you paying attention, Rachel?
I didn't wait to get fired. I was like, I have to leave right now. It's not working. It's not you. It's me.
Some tower card energy, right?
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
100%.
So yeah. So
Yeah. So, I mean, I mentioned earlier, but like getting sick, my body, like I would come home and I thought I was going to throw up, and I would just dry heave. And I'd be like, oh, well, that was an intense session today, I guess. Or yeah, it was literally trying to push energy out of my body. And the other thing that kept, and I do not mean to put this in the same category. I would like to say publicly, I love like my clients that I worked with. I was very lucky to work with people that were just incredible people and came to do the work and were good fits for me. And I think that was something that I'm proud of that I did well, was sort of set up a space that worked to bring in the people that I would work well with and that I enjoyed working with. But I also, in that spirit of like, my job is to give and give. I think I've mentioned this to you both, but when things weren't working, when I would get that feeling of dread and be like, something isn't right, but no, everything should be right. I'm doing all the right things. My plan to deal with that was to go in deeper. So I'd be like, this doesn't feel right, but what if I grew the practice and hired another clinician? This doesn't feel right, but what if I started supervising more like, this feels awful. Please pile on some more.
yeah,
Maybe
give me
that'll
more
fix the
shit.
problem.
Yep.
You're guilty and account for right here.
So I kept, having these moments where I would sort of pull back a little bit and be like, I connected with one of my old beloved mentors, poet Jim Moore, who taught me in college. And he suggested, again, very gently and nicely, that it was kind of sad that I wasn't writing poetry anymore, just because he would have liked to read it. He wasn't trying to be bossy, but he recommended that I check out a writing program in Provincetown called the Fine Arts Work Center, which is an amazing place where you can go and do week or 2 week poetry workshops with like phenomenal writers. And it feels very grown up. It doesn't just feel like a cute little retreat, but so it put me sort of face to face with writing seriously, which I hadn't done in years since I really started psychology. And that used to be such a big part of my identity, was as a writer. So he recommended I went there, and I started having this sort of like heart awakening again. I was like, oh, I really miss writing. I really want to do this. And then I got back to Pittsburgh and was like, nope, we're just going to keep going harder on the psychology stuff. And as I would do that, you mentioned, being available for people that want that supply. It was like I would take a little step towards embracing this other part of my life. And then someone would come to me and say, hey, can you supervise in this program over here? Or, hey, I know you're not taking new clients, but this one might be really interesting for you. And it was almost like the closer I got to the edge of the cliff, like something else would come and push me just like a little bit more. And I would say yes. And I recognized it. I didn't know why I was doing it, but I recognized that pattern of working against my own sense of freedom and my own sense of being true to myself. And so, yeah, again, in hindsight, there was my body sort of revolting. I wouldn't put this in. We talked a little bit about, I had a sudden ovarian failure when I was 39 years old.
Oh,
And
no, we're going to talk about
we
that.
can talk about that. But that I wouldn't put that in the same category as like my body being upset in the way it was during therapy. But like, I don't know that I would have caught what was happening there if I hadn't had to be forced to listen to my body a little bit more when it was screaming at me that things weren't right.
Yeah.
So again, with hindsight, my body was revolting. And then I would find myself in this pathological pattern of knowing I should say no and opening my mouth and being like, yes.
Almost like an addiction.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
There was like the familiarity of that dopamine hit.
Yes.
Of being like, how do you do it all? You're doing these amazing things. And I'd be like, yeah. And then I come home and I vomit.
Yes.
Well, it was a level of comfortability. And we talked about this when we came into the studio and we were doing reading and everything. And I've shared since the idea of this with my husband, because we talked about when you're saying yes over and over again to things you know aren't right for you, you still have the structure supporting you.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the right one for you.
Yep.
And it feels really hard and scary to jump off the cliff and to not have that support. And I've had multiple times this year that I've had the exact same situation where I've had other parts of my business or other businesses that I've worked in come back and offer me, here you go. Here's this shiny thing on this platter. Yeah. Don't you want to do this?
Yep.
And my growth journey has been twice this year to say no to these big shiny things.
Yeah.
And that was hard.
Yeah.
But also I was like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. Like I'm saying no.
Yeah.
But in saying no, you're saying yes to what it is you really want.
And what is to come. And I think that that's, that's the universe at play. Because I always say that, God has a sense of humor and we get those tests over and over and over again. Like this won't be the last time any of us have a test that comes back after we've thought we've put it to bed and we've moved on and we've done good. And it's like, joke's on you. It's coming back. So just keep an eye out for it. Yeah, because being a human is a fucking challenge. And, being on your path, not following the patriarchy, not following, or just figuring out that you were on the path that wasn't right for you, right? Not that it didn't play its part, because it does. Everything builds on each other. And, it's cliche. I know that, but I believe that everything happens for a reason. Yeah. I believe people come into your life for a reason. I believe there's signs and synchronicities that happen. And whether or not we choose to acknowledge them or choose to see them or feel them or know them, that's on us. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think awareness, I think we can beat ourselves up for like, oh, why didn't I see this before? I do think divine timing, that we learn the lessons at the time when we have the support to actually 100%. Learn them. And that, I mean, I do this all the time. I'm the meanest person in the world to myself, and I'm always working on that. But, I'm the first one who will be like, why didn't you figure that out before? It was so clear. And I have to remind myself of a few things. And one is that, again, this overdeveloped analytic thinking brain likes to take a lesson or something that's coming at me and be like, I know what's going on here. So let me interpret it this way. So someone coming to me when I'm ready to step back from my practice and saying, no, take on more, my brain can say, I'm in charge of this. This lesson is actually to take the opportunity coming to you. Come on. Like the universe is offering you an opportunity. And the universe is like, I've been offering you opportunities waiting for you to say no.
No. Yeah.
Like the lesson is actually, but my brain can hijack that very quickly. And be like, okay, I know what the end is before it starts. And then that's when I spin around.
I'm pretty sure you and I share a brain.
Especially because of, your education too. Not that that's a bad thing, but like in these types of situations, that can work against you, not in your favor, because, like that's all ego based.
Yeah. It's like the playgrounds where I'm historically the most comfortable are the things that have been well developed.
Yes.
And like, so going into an intellectual environment, like I know how to read the books. I know how to talk about this. I enjoy that. And also it's like, using one muscle and then not having the capacity to use your full body because you've not developed any strength in those places.
Yeah. It's like you're on autopilot. You know it so well.
Yeah. there's like a concept from that we learned early on in one of my philosophy classes. The program I went to is one of the last psychology programs that still requires philosophy as part of its foundational training, which is very cool. But
Which is also crazy that it's going away.
which is, yeah, wild.
Because I feel like psychology is based on philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Until
it's
the changes, yeah, the sort of psychology has moved. I mean, cognitive behavioral psychology has a place, but psychology itself has moved from a symbolic, more holistic practice into change your thoughts to change your behaviors, which is a brain forward way of
Right.
thinking. And that can be very helpful in certain situations, but as an entire field,
no, right.
it really is going into neuro and cognition as the driving forces.
Instead of a state of being.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyways, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, but I know you want to. I can see you
I'm not trained.
peeking your little toe in there.
Well, I just like to ask questions all the time. You know, I like to know why people think the way they think. And all the time it comes back to inner child, behavior, trauma, education. I mean,
Mm-hmm. We got some really deeply programmed loops.
Yes.
That get
Yeah.
a lot of work.
yeah.
But do we have to seek knowledge to change, or can we just seek knowledge to understand it and look at it with curiosity? Or do we have to go that way where it's, change forward?
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things that my therapist talks about a lot, and I appreciate so very much, is the idea that change can happen without understanding. Which is how I try to slow myself down sometimes. I'm like, no, I need to figure this all out so then I can implement, or I can like understand what's happening. And she's like, part of the process of trusting yourself and trusting the universe is trusting that you might not have the answers right now, but that some form of understanding will come.
Yes.
And that doesn't have to be analytic understanding. You do not have any idea until it happens what that understanding looks like. But understanding is not the precondition for change. It's oftentimes like a really lovely after effect.
Yes. Yes. No, I love that.
And it may not
time
come and you
after.
can still change. Yeah. Maybe forever not happening. But that idea that you don't have to rely on that understanding to move
You
goes
can let it
against
go.
everything
Yeah.
that I've been taught,
Right.
but goes for everything that my body agrees with.
Well, and I think too, as a society, we're trained to like fix.
Well, that's if you go on your phone and you scroll on social media, it doesn't matter where you go. It's all about fix this. If I was going to do this, I would do these 3 easy steps.
Yeah.
Fix this, but get more followers, do more of this. Like, it's all about fixing. Like, you're never good enough the way you are.
Yeah, and
You
just-
don't have enough followers. You don't have enough listeners. You're not muscular enough. You're not eating enough protein. Fuck it all.
Mhm.
Like,
Though I will say some of the solutions for perimenopause I have been grateful
right,
for.
but there's a difference in managing
right. Well, and that's
versus constantly trying to fix yourself. Like,
Totally.
I mean, that's a field that is wildly understudied,
yes.
and we get minimal, if any, fucking support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys read Miranda July's book,
No.
All Force?
Mm-mm.
I recommend.
Okay.
Okay.
It is a novel, somewhat memoir-y in spirit, but it's just like a fun, filthy novel about
Yes.
ultimately at base the perimenopause experience, even though that's not what's talked about. It's like this sort of wild portal journey into like a whole different way of this narrator's understanding of herself. But it got talked about a lot last year when it came out, or
Okay.
2 years ago. And I was like amazed. I was like, the biggest conversation, the only reason people are talking about perimenopause right now is because this author wrote an amazing book that drew attention to it in a literary way.
Yeah.
But like, and then these conversations started happening around it.
Yeah.
And I consider it a public service announcement book
Yes.
for women all over. But it was because something came into the public domain as a piece of fiction
Mm.
that these other conversations
Because it was
started.
palatable for
Mhm.
people. 'Cause
Exactly.
It wasn't real.
Exactly. Yeah.
There is, I haven't listened to it. It's 3.5 hours long. But Stephen Bartlett has 4 female doctors of different capacities on to talk about perimenopause this past week.
Good for him.
3.5 hours long. I was like, I'm going to have to figure out how to digest this, but it's going to be chock full of knowledge. It's
Oh,
going
yeah.
to be incredible. which kind of like lends itself into part of your story that you started. Well, you told us the whole story last week. But again, I think it's one that we've talked about in the past about it combines radical acceptance with something that you couldn't control, that I think a lot of women and even men, because the men are supportive of partners that are going through these types of things, is what you were talking about, your ovarian failure and your full-blown menopause journey at 39.
Yeah.
And it was one of those stories that I, not having walked that journey, but again, I feel a lot of when people go, like when they walk through different things. And so I was very much drawn to, wanting to share it, but I know we asked you prior. So if you don't mind kind of touching on that, and because that also has impacted your art and your journey. And your story it's profound. Like I have so much admiration and love and compassion for, the pain, but also the beauty in what you're sharing.
Thank you. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm very happy to talk about it. It's interesting. I am a person who suffers from the chronic fear of embarrassing myself, and which is typically associated with vulnerability. And yet for things that are true for me and can be very personal, and some people might be like, this is too much information or whatever, but if they feel really true and honest as part of my experience, that fear of embarrassment goes out the window. And I started to realize that where it comes up often for me historically is when I was still playing music and performing and working on other people's projects and worried about embarrassing myself because I worried they were going to be embarrassed of me if I made a mistake or did something wrong. And that goes back to all sorts of parent stuff, right?
Right.
Don't bring shame upon our family.
Yes.
Do not embarrass us. Yeah, I think that also, just to sort of tag back about accepting or trusting messages, is I'm like, for someone who's so absolutely paralyzed by performance anxiety, sometimes I'll tell you all about hiking and bleeding in the woods. So let's do it because it's true, right? And because it's real. This was also during pre-vaccine COVID, but I got the worst headache of my life. And I really didn't want to go to the hospital because we were in the thick of it and nobody knew what was going on. But I'd worked with enough patients that had neurological brain issues and tumors and stuff. And I was like, this is the worst headache I've ever had. So I went to the hospital. They did a brain scan and diagnosed me with a migraine, which I'd never had before. And then told me to stop taking my birth control pills, which I'd been taking continuously for decades. And by continuously, I mean not taking the placebo pills. So I just hadn't had a period for decades either. So I wasn't in cycle. I wasn't aware of cycles in that way. I just took the medicine. So they told me to stop taking birth control because of the migraines and risk about elevated blood pressure and other things like that. So about 2 weeks after stopping my birth control medication, I started just feeling like my body was falling apart. I was waking up with vertigo, clutching the sheets while I was just drenching the sheets with sweat. I started having what I know now are hot flashes about 30 times a day. I was seeing clients on therapy platforms, the digital therapy platforms, and there were certain sessions where I had to not use the camera because I was just going into these full flush sweats and getting dizzy again. So I just told them I had some health stuff going on and needed to just do audio. But I was really freaking out. Is this just a transition of getting off the medication? And so I started seeing doctors about this, and none of them would do lab tests for a long time because they told me I was too young, that these looked like menopausal, perimenopausal symptoms, but I was too young. And I did my internet research, but after about 6 months, 8 months, I don't remember, quite some time of and these were debilitating symptoms. It was really bad. I got a blood work panel done, and I believe the FSH levels, hormone levels for folks that are considered postmenopausal are 26 or 28, and mine were at 65. So they were like, this is not ambiguous, boom. And what usually causes such a drop like that is not a gradual perimenopause into menopause process, but a sudden ovarian failure where your body chemistry and hormones change rapidly.
Right.
And so that headache seemed to be sort of the herald of what was going on there. So I was like, this has been confusing and awful, but at least I have some answers now. Fantastic. We talked about medication. We talked about different options. And so I went on hormone replacement therapy, but I still didn't get a lot of good information, even from, doctors that I generally liked. And I'm like, tell me everything. You cannot give me too much medical information.
Right.
So the epic hike of which you speak, I had been started on estrogen patch and progesterone pills. And what they had not told me is that the progesterone was meant to basically help you release uterine lining so that you didn't get infections or things like that. So you would start having periods again, even if you weren't ovulating. That was not communicated. So I went, I was like, great.
It's so wild how they use these hormones. Go on.
Yeah. So I was getting ready to do a 9-night hike of the Laurel Highlands hiking trail through by myself. And I was like, great, I'm not having hot flashes anymore. Here we go. We're going to do this hike.
Well, and wasn't the hike supposed to be like you were taking this hike to be on?
Yeah. This was
not
like
a cleanse, but
it was my like purposeful, it was supposed to be a bit of a portal. It was like, I have stopped doing therapy. So all of this stuff was going on until I closed my practice. And then I got on medication maybe a month or two before I closed. So this hike was basically within a month after I closed, and it was supposed to be here I go. I brought my notebooks. I was trying to write at that point, but that was going to be the before and after. I actually have time to just go into the woods for 10 days. So I was picturing it like, a magical retreat. And it was, until about like 4 days in, the periods that I didn't know were going to be starting up again did. And I was out in the woods with no supplies, nothing like that, no stores nearby. And so I spent the second half of this hike just free bleeding through the woods. And I think I told you the song I kept getting stuck in my head, but the like kissing and hoping and squeezing. But I was just like bleeding and hiking and bleeding. And I was going for days, and I would, stop and try to take care of business as best I could. But I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I went from like being this medical anomaly where people like, no, this can't possibly be the case. Like, to no, you're in full blown menopause. Like all of these body things are finished, to just being a free bleeding, free spirit in the woods, trying to keep my shit together.
And I was like, that's so symbolic, because I wish we lived in a society. We have 2 young daughters. How we were raised to understand and embrace what that even looked like is very different then than it is today. And with Kristen's support and other girlfriends, to really have them embrace it in a beautiful way, so it's not a demonized thing. You don't have to hide behind anything. And I think free bleeding, there's something about that intrigues the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
It was only like 5 years ago they started actually using real blood to test tampons. Before that, they had only used water. Like, what the fuck? Like, how are we here? But I just, when you told that story, I was like, weird. What a pain in the ass, just from a literal, a logistical standpoint, but also, and also how fucking cool to be on it where there's no one else there. Like there was no one to embarrass, right? Yeah. Like it was you.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about leaving the chrysalis.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, so crazy. I mean, it's not talked about enough. It's not studied enough. And if we can do anything here today, it's to give other women a platform to know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like, find yourself a fucking group of girlfriends that you can have this conversation with and be like, hey, do you have recommendations? Do you have a doctor? Anything.
Yeah.
Go out in the fucking woods and bleed for a week. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's true. I think that it's so shamed, and there's nothing to be shamed about, right? Like, and I feel like, even with Kristen, Kristen suffers with PCOS, and that's another thing that's not really studied, and everyone wants to pigeonhole it. And I was telling Emmeline the other day, I was like, what was the example I used? I was like, every woman is different. Like, we're not created the same. We're not created equal. We all have, we're created equal, but we're not created the same. So like, our periods aren't the same. Our symptoms aren't the same. You can't just be like, well, you have this, therefore do this.
Yeah.
And I think the more we talk just openly, it's helpful.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, our girls are an example of like they're talking to each other. I did not have anybody to ever talk to.
I got made fun of. I remember
kind of
distinctly
stuff.
getting made fun of for having my
Right.
period. Wearing tampons or pads. I remember there was like no big discussion, and I thought because I was young that I only needed panty liners. Like one of my first, and I had gone on this field trip and I fucking bled through everything. I didn't have backup clothes. I didn't have backup underwear. I didn't have the right products. Like, I just felt so isolated, which it's not like that today.
No, I mean, growing up around the same time, I think that was the messaging. Like your brain made sense in a way that made sense. I'm small, so I need small products.
Right.
Like there's no,
how could
that's
it
a perfectly
possibly
reasonable conclusion to come to with the
Right.
information available. But as we discussed earlier, you got to tell people you put your hair on the shower wall because that's what happens. Then you find out everyone else loses hair and puts it on the shower wall.
Or your period underwear in the shower and leave them there for your brothers. Well, you didn't have that problem, but I used to love to do that just to make them be like, oh my God, Rachel, this is so gross.
Speaking of period underwear, has anybody gotten them yet?
I had a pair and they worked really well, but they're old now and they stopped working. Emmeline has just the basic ones.
I just bought my first pair. I'll report back in.
Oh, it's the box is right there. It's on top of your piano.
Yeah, I know. I just
or your
bought
keyboard.
them.
I stopped taking progesterone, so I don't have to worry about failure to deal with.
Well, it's
I do-
interesting because, like, not to
No,
cut
go
you
ahead.
off. Well, in March of this year, I had an event that pushed me into a 7-week period.
You were on it when we were at the thing. It was the beginning of the.
Oh yes, it's when we were
at the
when we
women's
met you.
event.
And it was to the point where it was like every 45 minutes recording our podcast with a towel under her. I mean, it was
really
intense.
Bad. Yeah, it was really bad. And they had used several courses of progesterone to try and get me to stop bleeding.
Interesting.
Right. And so I'm like, I had this whole different experience with the same
with this-
hormone.
yeah, that's wild.
So I would be curious, is it a dosage thing?
Yeah.
Like, why do they do that? Neither course ended up working. And they ended up having, I think it was called tranexamic acid, which is like a clotting agent
Okay.
to get it to stop finally.
Yeah.
And then I cycled back into a normal cycle after that. But I mean, it was 7 weeks of not like spotting, like full on.
Like
Yeah.
hemorrhaging.
It was terrible.
God, it's so
You know, and you go and you got an ultrasound and all the things, and there's no answers.
Yeah. It's like, this is weird and interesting.
This sucks for you.
Come back.
It's like also like
Congratulations, you're still a lady.
it's like this is your job. I had sent
God, you were so mad about it.
well, I do. I get fired up about it. And, you know, even like with my PCP, which I think I need to find a new one just because I don't feel our relationships where our relationship should be. She likes everything to be done on this app, right? Because everything needs to be virtual. That's how she works, blah, blah, blah. She has a lot of patience. I get that. And so I had sent her this supplement that I wanted to try. And she's like, I'm not familiar with it, but as long as it doesn't wreak havoc on your kidneys and liver. I'm sorry. What? Are you telling me that? Like, how the fuck am I supposed to know if that's your job? I'm like, look at the ingredients. I just sent it to you. Like, you have my labs. I don't know how to read blood work. Like, what are you talking about? And I got that response and I was like, okie dokie. I was like, they are not my doctor anymore.
Yeah.
I guess now I'm my doctor. Anyways, thank you for sharing and being vulnerable with that. I think that, you know, I hope that this message, our hope is that this does reach women that are going through something similar, whether it's in their career, whether they're not listening to their bodies, or they're physically having some of these symptoms and they are like, maybe I should go get this checked out. Hopefully, you know, this gives them encouragement to do that. And I am excited to see where our friendship continues to blossom. You have 2 strong supporters in your craft and in your work. And we are excited to see where your journey unfolds and where this takes you. And yeah, thank you. Genuinely, thank you for everything.
No, I said earlier, like meeting the two of you is like starting a conversation that we just keep having and not finishing. And I anticipate more of that. And I'm excited for more of that. And even for people listening, they sat down and provided the most glorious lunch before we started. And it was just like sitting around a table, everybody talking, catching up, and just like recognizing connections that we did not know we had, or people that we've worked with, or places that we've
It was
spent
so
time at
Pittsburgh.
meetings.
Yeah.
It was like, yes, we are these microscopic little grains of sand. And also like the connections just keep connecting.
Mhm.
And so it's really a gift to be a part of this. And I feel like we all met each other just when we needed to. And thank you so much for asking really great questions. I like needing to take a pause sometimes because something just opened up a new door. And I feel like you know how to ask those kinds of questions. So I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for being here. If you were to give one piece of advice to somebody that's listening right now, what would it be?
To not punish yourself for doing the things that feel good and that bring you joy. There's a place and a need for that. And I think finding those places for ourselves is the best thing that we can do.
Perfect.
Yep.
You are like a mighty river, my friend. You are unstoppable and full of magic, and we're so glad to know you.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it, guys. We'll see you soon.
Yep.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.